Well, let's talk about some art that has tons of merit and tons of incredible performances. I am so obsessed with this season of Peacemaker. I'm sitting down with David Denman, who is bringing us some incredible work as the brother of Peacemaker. We didn't get to meet season 1 for very specific reasons, and now in season 2 had one of the most chilling lines, I think, of TV in the last 5 years. I got to kick off there. What was it like to read those twist elements on the script and then have to kind of hold on to that for so many months? Like, that was such a major, they were dead the whole time kind of twist.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, when I read it, I was like, oh my God, no. I have to be a meme of this. But it's funny, and it's an amazing twist in this show. And so that part is really exciting. But holding on to it was tough because, we do a lot of these interviews promoting the show, and inevitably everybody started asking, wait a minute, what about this, Earth X, and there's only white people in the background, and you have to lie. You literally, have to lie to everybody and be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I hadn't paid attention to that. No, I'm not really, So to be able to be on the other side of that is great, where I don't have to keep the lie up. But yeah, there was a lot of secrecy behind Keith. I mean, I didn't go to Comic-Con. They almost didn't have me do the press line in New York at the premiere because they were very nervous that something would come out. And luckily I did all this press during the day beforehand, and my handler was like, he's got this, it's fine. And they were like, are you sure? Because James really doesn't want anyone to know. And I'm like, I'm not saying anything about anything. And I didn't.
And now I'm so glad we're sitting down now, because it's the big moment and the little moments. We've gotten to the point where it's actually freeing to talk about this show, because it is a very intense pivot, and it's so late in the show. I really love that it's not a binge model. I really like that this was weekly, so it got to build to that crescendo of like, what is happening in episode 6?
Yeah.
What was the experience like for you, having filmed that like a year ago, to get to watch the internet and to experience people have this ride?
Yeah, it's fun. I'm a big fan of the weekly. I was on another show on HBO called Mayor of Easttown, and we did the same thing. And it was every week a new episode, and it grew and built, and it had the opportunity to be that like water cooler kind of show. And I feel the same thing is happening with Peacemaker, where people are coming up like, oh my God, I was just at the gym, and someone comes up with oh Lord on their on their iPad and giving me a fist bump, and stuff like that is really fun, and it's fun to see the show growing and the big reveal. I mean, I very few things you can get excited about, right? Like that, like you're like anticipating something, and so I think it worked out really well.
And they say we're wired to be anticipatory more than the actual reward. And I think we lose that with binge model TV, because it's planning the trip as much as the trip. Like when you're with a family, you're going on vacation, but you're looking at it on the calendar. I think something like this episode 6 reveal really shows we need those payoffs, and it needs to be like a long form experience.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to miss out. You don't want to be the guy who missed. Wait, what? What's happening? So that's kind of the fun part.
Now, working with something that has this aggressive subject matter, but it's on the right side of a moral idea. I really like that the show has reprehensible characters showing you the morality of how you should feel by being like, whoa, I was on their side. Oh, this is my blind spot. Like, I didn't clock until episode 3, whatever that film that is. Playing a character like that, how important is it for you to convey art that you think is going to have like a lasting impression? Do you seek that in your scripts? Do you always try to find something that's going to have like a some sort of, this is bettering the world when you can?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you can get that, yeah, that's the idea, right? Like for me, doing any art like this is trying to, illuminate something, holding a mirror up to nature, as Shakespeare said long ago. And that, if you can do it in I'm not saying he's being subversive, but like this character, what's so much fun is that he is loving to his brother. He cares about his brother. He's the supportive guy. They tell each other how much they love each other. They show it. They're affectionate. And like, that's something that's important that we should be doing in society. So you have this model where people are like, oh, wow, that's progressive, like in how they're treating each other. And if you if we're doing our job right, people are caring about this guy and they're caring about, you know, Chris Smith's journey. Because a lot of this show is Chris trying to heal the traumas of his past, of his childhood, and getting that love and that support that he never got as a kid. And what would he have become if he had had that? And then, you know, you pull the rug out from everyone and go, oh, they're Nazis.
Yeah.
You know, they're racist Nazis. And so it's also saying, like, racist Nazis can be loving and supporting people to the people they care about, and they can treat everyone else like garbage. So those two things can still exist. You know, it's like, So that's fun to play. You know, it's. I think it's more interesting to play than the twisting the mustache kind of villain. You know what I mean? Like, but those are fun parts to play too, you know, when you're diabolical. But it was a good time.
I do think that the power of the family element of the show is that contextualizing people as people that can have a major flaw or a minor flaw, but you need to see the human element to have them feel human. And Robert Patrick, Keith, the portrayal of Keith, flowers to you, man. The portrayal of Keith, to give him so much depth when we only heard of him in the first season, when we only could imagine, you know, we saw him as a child. We could only have our mind's eye of what John could have been down the line, but it feels so lived in. And I really want to know what you, Robert Patrick, and John all did to find the chemistry, to find that this feels like decades of history, and it has to both feel authentic to a Chris Smith, but not that Chris Smith. So how did you guys find that bond?
You know, a lot of that is building it, you know, off screen. You know, Robert and I became really, really good friends in this process, and spend as much time as we can together, having dinners and hanging out and getting to know each other. And you just have a familiarity there that you can pull from on screen. You know, John, I didn't have as much access to, you know, but we hung out between takes and would talk, and I got to know him a little bit. And we talked a lot about, at the time, that Vince McMahon documentary had come out.
Yeah.
And so I learned all this, because my knowledge of wrestling had basically stopped when I was, I don't know, in high school. And you know, I was a huge fan when I was a kid, and then I wouldn't really watch it. And then eventually I would it would be on somewhere and be like, wait, what the hell is going on? How is this wrestling? Like, it was very sexualized and it was really raunchy and violent. And I'm like, God, this is a lot crazier than what I remember as a kid. And he kind of explained to me that process of how they went to that extreme and then came back around, and how John was one of the first people that realized, like, our future is those kids. Mm-hmm. And if we don't make a product that's going to, you know, appeal to them, we're gonna lose this. And now it's the biggest thing it's ever been. And it's that foresight that he had. And at a certain point he said, yeah, I'm done doing this thing, and I'm gonna do that. And I focused on the kids. He goes, man, we would go to these arenas where, you know, those shows they would do like every night, like they would go around the country. And he goes, we go to these giant arenas, you know, it'd be like 20,000 people, and there'd be 1,000, 2,000 people in there, and they're angry at us. He goes, it was gnarly for a while, and then it started to pick up, and he started to see those kids wearing the shirts and cheering you on, and then it built and built and built, and to what it is today. So I got to talk to him about that, and I you know, really, I don't know him that well, obviously, but, like, you know, that being able to have those connections help, I think, when you're playing those scenes where you're supposed to have history and you're supposed to have all that stuff. But also, you know, the Chris Smith in Earth X is a very different character, and he's a troubled dude. That guy has a drug problem. He's got an alcohol problem. He's horrible to hardcore. Harcourt.
The hardcore Harcourt really hits sometimes.
But, like, you know, so when you look at it from that perspective, I'm seeing this guy whose behavior is different, and I'm chalking this up to, wait, is he using again? Like, what is happening? Because Keith's journey is to try to keep him on the straight and narrow. He's always getting off the rails, and he's sort of pulling him back. And he's like, you know, if you look back in retrospect now, you can see all those. There's all those Easter eggs throughout the thing where he's talking about, you know, this girl, you kind of let a good thing go, and but yeah, I mean, to build that history, that's just us I don't know.
I love that you got time to like hang out, offset with Robert Patrick a lot. And I feel like that really shows. And I really feel like, it feels like you and John have known each other a really long time, so you can feel the absence of that universe's John. And that is a very hard line to walk that doesn't feel, not mustache twirly, but cartoonish in the like, by golly, he's a different guy. Like, that's a hard thing to convey in a drama that's so emotional.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of comedy in this, which is what makes that conceit work. When he's going, you're wearing pants. I never saw her wear pants before. Like, there's a lot of funny things that happen in their reality. But in comedy, you got to play it all real. It's, it's the same. It's a fine line between drama and comedy. And I love when I get to do both of them in the same role, in the same type of show.
And in that vein, what was the script like, the actual read through? Because James Gunn's scripts are so energizing. Did you laugh on your first read through? Did you feel those notes of drama? Like, how did it feel on the page as compared to like on the day actually getting to sit down with everybody?
I mean, I don't remember doing any table reads. I got the scripts ahead of time. I read my scenes, and I read 2 scenes for the audition, and one was one of those early scenes where he's talking to his brother. And they were changed. They were a little bit changed. We were talking about our mother, and they do this so that fans don't get a copy of sides and go, oh my God, this is what's happening. But so I didn't really know exactly, but there was a context of being a supportive brother. And then there was a more comedic scene with hardcore.
That play on word actually is haunting in the other way, where it's an earworm the wrong direction.
And that was a comedic scene, and and that was what James was looking for, someone who can do both of those things. So I knew there was going to be there was going to be both of those elements, the first time we did those scenes, like me and John in the kitchen and stuff, that was just our first time on our feet, and it was funny, and we had a good.
Was it Brightburn? Like, how did you fall into the James Gunn acting troupe?
Well, James and I have known each other like 20 years because his ex-wife and I were on The Office together. And so I would see him, casually from Jenna Fisher. And so then I think I auditioned for a couple of things over the years. I think maybe Guardians or something. And James was very, very kind and would send me messages, say, oh my God, you're awesome, but I'm going with this other guy, but loved your read. And then Brightburn came along, and we worked together on that. And he was a producer on that, but he was on set every day. He was a huge part of that whole process. So that's how I got into his world, I guess professionally.
Sure.
And I auditioned for something in Superman, and trying to think of what else. But yeah, I remember when Peter called, he was like, hey, we've always been trying to find something for you in this universe, and we think this might be it. And there's a physical element to this that is going to be kind of required. Are you up for that? I just need to check your barometer, and I said, well, okay. What exactly do you mean? He's like, well, we kind of need you to get cut. And I was like, cut? Cut? I've never been cut in my life. If you want me to try to look like John Cena, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't know that we have enough time. And he goes, no, we don't need that. We just need you to be in the best shape of your life.
Just that.
And I was like, that I can do. I mean, just like, if you're willing to put in the work, great. And the costume will be what the costume is. So anyone can, if you're as long as you're not fat, you're going to be able to get away with that costume. He didn't say that, but it was implied. We got to get in shape. We're going to do some stunts. There's things that you're physically going to need to do, wire work, things like that. And so, I just wanted to check that. And so I did think about it for a long time, because at the moment I was in the worst shape of my life. I just got done having the surgery. I was not in a healthy place. And I was scared of what I was going to have to go through. And then when I finally agreed to it, I dove full in, and I was doing something for it, like 6 hours a day, whether it was stretch lab or it was physical therapy or it was actually being in the gym with Paolo, who's my personal trainer, who did Superman and, a bunch of the characters from Superman, and or going on hikes or riding my bike or swimming or whatever. I was doing something it felt like a full-time job all day. And it was tough. It was really tough. And cutting calories, huge deficit. I had to be like, 2,000 calories a day, and that was it. And that was hard. Like, I was not a gym guy. I was not a workout guy. And I became one in the process of that. And then, when it was over, I learned, I need to have somebody I got to show up for. So I found a buddy to work out with, who used to be a trainer, and convinced him to get back in the gym. And so now I still go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week if I can. And I'm just trying to stay on it and be healthier, which, at the end of the day, it's just adding more years to my life for my kids. So I'm super grateful for the opportunity and what it did for, me and my family.
That was the first quote I heard when you were allowed to talk about it, was you crediting this with like saving your life and extending your life and all those elements. And I think that's beautiful and so important. And I've always loved, like, I'm a comic guy, like the actual comic books. And that's why I started training. Because in my head, I was like, well, if I can look like Batman, I'm gonna look like Batman. Like, it always made sense to me, but like, you've got a map right here. And I really like that Paolo is such an advocate for health on top of fitness. What were some of the elements of that training that were like the biggest macro of an idea for you? Like, what really helped you go from, oh, this is not fun, it's an effort, to, I want to maintain this, this is worthwhile, beyond the longevity?
That's a good question. I mean, part of it was, they wanted me to be available for the next 3 years if he wants to use me in something else at some point. I don't know what that is. He probably, he doesn't probably, he knows. He hasn't shared that with me or anyone else. But so there was an element that was like, oh, you can't let yourself go back to where you were before. So you got to sort of maintain it. And then what I did is I took, you talk about a vision board, right? Like you're seeing Batman. I took a picture of Kratos because they're doing a series about it. And I'm scrolling through while I'm filming the show, and my kid is standing behind me, and he sees this picture of Kratos with this kid, and he's got a big long beard and bald head, and he goes, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, they're making a TV show." And he goes, "Well, you could play that part, Dad." And I go, I guess I could. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I could do that. And then it became like, okay, can you see if you can work towards getting your body to look like that? Because that's insane. The amount of protein that you have to eat to have that muscle mass. But it became just something. Like, whether I play the part or not is, it doesn't matter. It's having a goal. And for me, I need a goal. Whether it's, I'm going to do a triathlon on this date, so I got to work towards that. Or I've got to get into shape for this, possibility of this job. Like, so for me, building that, creating a goal and working towards that thing, even though, like, look, if I got a shot at playing that part, I'd have to be a whole nother level of fitness that, that I'm not, not currently in, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in striking distance. You know what I mean? Exactly. From going backwards is not a good idea. So staying here, and then and I'm currently in this weird bulking phase, which I'd never done before. Because when I did this job, I was just trying to cut. I was trying to cut as much fat as I could, and so I was doing a ton of cardio, and I was doing weights because you need to build that muscle mass to burn calories. But for this thing, I was like, can I get bigger shoulders and bigger arms and bigger back? And so now I'm bulking up in ways, and I hate the number on the scale because that kills me. I'm like, no.
You're so programmed for the other direction.
Exactly. I'm like, I lost 50 pounds. How am I putting on this weight? And I look in the mirror, and I'm like, oh, well.
That's those pounds.
Yeah, yeah. You're turning the fat into muscle, which weighs more. So, it's like, it's that psychology in my head that messes with me. But learning, and going back to Paolo, it's also the macros and like what you're eating. He'd be like, take a picture of your food, and I'm like, okay, and and he'd go, oh, that's good. Oh no, you can't eat those pineapple. I'm like, what? I can't have pineapple. What do you mean I can't have pineapple? And he's like, no, it's too much sugar. Like you don't get to do that when you hit your goal. Then you can add a little pineapple back in or whatever, But so things like that, where I didn't realize certain things that I thought were healthy, quote unquote, were counterproductive. And so I've learned a whole, I'm not like a fitness guy, and I'm not going to get on Instagram going, eat this and you're going to be jacked like this. Like that's not who I am. But I have learned a lot more than what I, like I can't, like, the joke was, because I used to eat pizza all the time. I didn't get to eat pizza until my birthday, which is July 25th. So from April 1st to July 25th, I did not touch a slice of pizza. And I got a 4 and a 7-year-old. That's all they eat.
Man,
they got pizza and pasta. And I'd be like, no, Dad's having broccoli and chicken. And they're like, okay. And then we went on a vacation, and I was like, okay, we're going to have pizza today. And Mercedes was like, what? And I'm like, we're having pizza. It's my birthday, and I literally ate like probably a giant extra large pizza that day. And I was very happy about doing that, but I couldn't go back to that.
It's like a language fitness. Like I think it's important for people that are learning it. Like, you can get fluent, and like Paolo's fluent, but it's really cool to start to learn like phrases, so to speak, and like to start to build that into your repertoire. And it's cool to see people like find that.
I just went to see a taping of American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
And so my kids are really into it. And I met a producer, this guy, Greg Cruiser, on it. And he said, hey, if you want to come up to Vegas, bring your kids and you can watch a taping. So we just did this a couple days ago. And there's a guy who won last year, Kai Beckstrom, I'm going to mess it up. Someone's going to scream, no, it's that guy.
In the comments.
I know his name's Kai because my son's name is Caius. And so anyway, I'm looking at this guy flying through the course, and I say to my wife, Jesus, look at his lats. And she goes, what? What has happened to you? Never in my life would I have ever heard those words come out of your mouth. But he's like this, like a V. It's crazy the conditioning these guys are in, and it's inspiring. They work hard to do.
That Dorito back is every bro's goal, man. That crazy. Yeah. I mean, like Eddie got in such crazy shape for Superman, and he's like in that one piece, but he's in such good shape for the movement and all that. And Eddie always likes to train anyway. But it was crazy what Paolo got, like corn sweat adding like 40 pounds. Eddie looked like an action figure, like what they got those guys into, and learning that language for you. Like, I love that you see it as an application for your kids. Like that's a really beautiful way to fight to not have the pizza.
Yeah, and it is a struggle every day. Like, don't make no mistake about it. I have to like consciously stay on it, or it's a very slippery slope.
I can't let cheat meals turn into cheat days, or I'm like, if it becomes a second meal, curtains. Like then all of a sudden it's a week of pizza, and I'm like, I have to start over.
Yeah.
Well, I can talk fitness all day, but I do want to talk. No, not at all. I'm stoked that like that was the first thing I heard about the Peacemaker press. It made me happy because that's how I see comics, and it drives me crazy. There's like a nerd stereotype of the opposite. I struggle because I want to be like a broy nerd, and the average nerd is like, why would I do that? And I'm like, but the diagrams, Batman's right here.
Yeah.
Reject Nation, at the start of this year, I was over 218 pounds, over 22% body fat. By the time it reached September, I got under 10% body fat, dropped nearly about 50 pounds. Now, lately, I've been working on building muscle. Now I got them photos out of the way. And a big part of that has been Huel. I drink so much, I ended up buying the actual protein powder bag so I can make it at home and mix it with some stuff. It's been a reliable source of protein and energy for me. Because Huel, short for human fuel, I just learned, is a complete meal in a bottle. I use it a couple times a week when I'm running from shoot to shoot or meeting to meeting, edit to edit, and I need something quick. And not just quick, but satisfying. Because if it's not satisfying, you end up just wanting to eat something else. And each serving of Huel has over 35 grams of plant-based protein, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, and is made with real whole food ingredients. It's Halloween time, and it doesn't matter if it's Halloween time. My go-to is usually the chocolate. Smooth, delicious, surprisingly tasty, like the vanilla as well, and they got a bunch of other flavors at the actual website themselves. My wife likes the strawberry banana. And me, I'm a man who's all about efficiency, so no prep, no cleanup, grab, shake, drink, and you're good to go. And at under $5 a meal, Huel helps me not just stay on track physically, but also financially. So go ahead and join the over 3 million people fueling with Huel. Visit Huel.com/RealRejects to try it for yourself today. You can claim your offer and get free shipping on your first order. Once again, Huel.com/RealRejects to claim your offer and get free shipping on your first order. Thank you, Huel, for being a partner of my life.
But you're in one of my favorite, I like to show people this movie, deep cuts. I am obsessed with the nines.
Oh,
I'm a
wow.
huge fan of the Nines.
That's cool.
And I love that you get to play multiple versions and kind of like Peacemaker, there are iterations of a character, but in a very different format. And the concept of the Nines, I'm not going to give away because you should watch it, allows for you to play in like plays in a movie.
Yeah.
What was the format of that script like? And did you shoot it chronologically or did you have to be use different days?
That's a good question. John August, who wrote and directed that, he wrote Big Fish, and he called me one day and said, "Hey, I wrote this movie, and I had you in mind for it." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." So I read it, and then I'm like, "Oh, it's only in like 3 or 4 scenes," but it was a great movie, and Ryan Reynolds is in it, Octavia Spencer's in it. She's in the same. She and I are in similar. I don't know how do you describe it. We're in about the same amount of the movie.
Similar elements of the story.
Yeah. And so anyway, I read the script and loved it, and I remember there was an element because Ryan had to be in like crazy shape for one of those.
There's a movie star portion.
Yeah, and I remember just hearing, them talking about it, in between setups for whatever we were filming, and he was like, "Well, when do we need to shoot that stuff?" Because for him, it was a science, and he knew like, okay, if I got to wait to take my shirt off, I need to know 4 days ahead of time, or whatever it was. So I think we did them in chunks. I think
that makes sense.
I know like the inside the house part, we shot in John's house. They shot all of that in, with Melissa McCarthy. And then, I don't know if it was chronologically. All I can say is they did work it around Ryan being in the shape he needed to be in for what he needed to shoot.
Ab-based scheduling, which as it kind of ties into our fitness, that really is the basis of what you have to do for some kind of shape.
It's true. I mean, I loved hearing Hugh Jackman talk about, going back and playing Wolverine. And he's like, look, you have to understand, this is a huge project. They said, we'll do it whenever you want to do it. But you just let us know at the beginning of filming, the end of filming, wherever. And he wanted to do it at the end. But they had to have a specific, he was working out. And then the other part of that is they shut down for COVID.
The strike happened.
That's right.
Yeah.
The strike shut it down. So he had to keep doing that for that time.
He had to maintain it for like 4 months,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, if you've cut any weight ever, but much less like his abs had abs, like
Yeah.
that was a crazy build.
That was so inspiring to see that, because that came out probably while I was in the middle of shooting Peacemaker, I think, or maybe right before it. I know I was working out at the time.
Yeah.
So it was somewhere in there. And I remember just going, Jesus, this guy who's, I think older than I am, and he looks like that. And it's the macros that are of his diet, that he's got a nutritionist, multiple nutritionists, multiple trainers that he was working with in London and in the States and wherever. So you realize from being in it, for me at least, was like, it's not one thing. It is a full team of like building towards a thing. So yeah.
And Ryan's got that with Don Saladino's his guy for Deadpool.
Oh, yeah.
And his physicality is so interesting because he's got to be able to like mime in the Deadpool suit effectively. So you've got to be able to move quickly, but also be of a certain build and also have that like a Dorito back because you look good in a suit. So I'm always fascinated by actors that are doing stuff like the Nines. And at that point, I think Ryan had just done Blade Trinity or was about to. And this was pre-Bridesmaids, Melissa McCarthy. So this is everyone on this like crazy come up. And that movie's such a esoteric, heady, weird, like
very weird. It's very, yeah.
And that set must have been something special with how odd the script is, plus John August, plus Ryan and Melissa.
I mean, yeah. It wasn't necessarily that odd because John wrote that and had friends in mind.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So he'd worked with Octavia. He worked with Melissa, I think, on whatever TV show they did, The Gilmore Girls, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Is that right? So it was everyone kind of doing a favor for a friend, they made that for no money.
Yeah.
And so, I dug that movie. I have to watch it again. It's been a long time. I mean, I think I saw it at Sundance, I think when it premiered. yeah, it's a cool little film.
I'm a physical media completionist, and I like Ryan. I think Ryan doesn't get his credit for his drama body of work. Like he's one of the great comedy voices, but like some of his dramas, including that one, really special.
Yeah.
Last question for you, because I'm also a huge Equalizer fan. The Equalizer trilogy, I consider one of the great trilogies of all time. And it's the tone shift that I think is so interesting. The first Equalizer to the third is such a trajectory of tones. When you get the script for one and it is more of your traditional, not quite John Wick, but in that like revenge thriller, and then it becomes this commentary on guilt and justice and what it is to be like almost a Babadook bad guy. And instead of glorifying that, they're kind of going like, do you still like this Equalizer? And he's being a Robin Hood, but what are those conversations like with the director or the writer to show the morality being a shade of gray, but over a long form? Because you don't get that one movie to decide it. You gotta have a journey. So what was your experience reading script 1 to 2?
Well, I was only in 3. And so
I assumed you had a whole conversation about the other portions.
No. I mean, I'd worked with Antoine on Emancipation, and I had read for the villain in that, and he really liked what I did and wanted me in the movie somewhere, and there was talk, for a while that I might play that part, and then eventually a really terrific actor, and I can't remember his name, played the part. But I came in and did like one scene as this general, and we had a great time. And he said, "Oh God, we got to do something else together. We got to do something else together." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'd love to, man." And he goes, "No, we got to figure something out." And then a couple months later, Equalizer 3 said, "Hey, do you want to go to Italy?" And I was like, "What? Yeah, okay." So I was only privy to that script, and I read that one. And for me, that one was like a classic Western, like an Clint Eastwood Western of the, but set in modern times. So, the guy coming in and saving the town and being the outsider and then questioning it. And I loved that script. It did change a little bit, like the ending changed, I think, for the better. Yeah, I mean, I love those movies. I think they're talking about making another one.
Oh, that'd be incredible.
That was because that last one I think was the highest grossing Denzel movie of all time.
I knew it did well. I didn't realize it was that well. That's incredible.
Yeah, and so when something is that successful, part of that was like, this is the last one.
Yeah.
But when in anything in this business, if it's super successful, then they want to figure out how to make more money off of it. And so I think they hired the writer to write another one. And yeah, the producer, I did a reading of another movie for the producer, and he said, "Yeah, I think we're going to do 4." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'll be in it, but
you can. The opportunity, it's right
I'm there.
If John Wick can fall down those stairs and we can get back up and make another one, Equalizer 4 can totally happen."
Yeah.
Oh, well, I love your work in Peacemaker, man. And I've loved seeing all of the evolutions of you with your work. And these, like, the indies like the Nines to Equalizer being the biggest Denzel movie. It's really cool to see you get to have your time as Keith and really get to flex those acting chops and flexing in general. So congratulations, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.